Okay, here we are. I'm recording doing question 2 now for this paper, so let's see how things go. And you might see my screen disappeared anyway. I suppose that's not such a big deal. Okay, let's look at these first two questions, or maybe just the first one for now. We are solving now, so this is no longer just a simplification sum. This is now an equation. I need to find out which value for x satisfies this equation. Here I just had to simplify. And there are things we're allowed to do in an equation that we're not allowed to do for a simplification problem. The most important one you need to be aware of is if I say half plus 2 on 4, please give me a moment just to fix my brushes. Now that's a bit small, isn't it? How about this? That's nice and big now, maybe even just one step smaller. Here. Okay, whatever. We'll live with that. So if I say a half plus a fourth, okay, what I need to do is I need to make the bases the same, right? So I'm going to have to multiply by 2 over 2. So this is going to be 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4. You know, this will obviously be 3, 4. You know that half plus a quarter is 3/4. But if I told you half x plus a quarter x is, you know, 3/4. I suppose 3/4. What you could do, since this is an equation, is you can multiply through by 4 each term. And what would happen is that your 2 would cancel out here, right? Your 4 would cancel out here. Your 4 would cancel out. So you'll have 2x plus x equals 3, right? Obviously x is 1. 3x equals 3, x is 1. But you get the idea. With an equation, I'm allowed to multiply through by a certain number in order to get my answer, where with the simplification problems, if you remember, you had to multiply each term by the least common denominator. So in this case, we have 2 over x plus 2 over x minus 1 equals 1 on x. And so I want to get my base to be x minus 1 times x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply each term by x minus 1, x minus 1, x minus 1. I hope this is not the first time you see this. Anyway, these cancel then, right? X minus 1 cancels the x minus 1, x cancels with the x. What you have left is 2 times x minus 1 plus 2 times x equals x minus 1. Obviously, just simplify here. (2x minus 2 plus, this was 2x plus 2x equals, or we'll take the x over to one side as well. Well, let's leave it as it is. Okay, 2x plus 2x is 4x, minus this x, that's 3x, negative 1 plus 2 is 1, so x is a third. Okay, we're done for this question. Let's have a look at the next one. Here. Going to make this slightly bigger. So the question is 6 plus x, well, the square root of 6 plus x equals x. Now, what's important to realize here is that we have a square root. So what we're going to do is we're going to square both sides. Correct? So let's see. If we had to 6 plus x square root equals x, if we had to square both sides, then this would just be a square root and a square cancel, right? 6 plus x, and this will be x squared. Then what we have is we have a quadratic equation. let's move this x over, negative x, negative 6, we will factorize, and this will be x times x. This will be negative 3, positive 2, because minus 3 plus 2 is going to give you minus x. So we've got x is 3 and x is negative 2. So if we, it's very important in when you have a square root, an equation with a square root in, to verify your solutions. So let's quickly verify. Let's see if we put x equals 3 in over here and over here, will this equation really balance? Let's see. So root of 9, is the root of 9 3? Yes it is. Yes it is. Let's verify the second one. Square root 6 minus 2, is that really equal to negative 2 square root of 4? Is that equal to negative 2? No. Square root of 4 is positive 2, equal to negative 2. Here's something that may be a bit confusing to you. You say, why can't this be positive or negative? Where in the past, what I've done is x squared. If x squared is 16, then what you do is you root both sides, right? Then, you know, you realize that, but then we know x can be 4. Wrong color. We know x can be 4, and x can be negative 4. So x is plus or minus 4. Why are you telling me that it can't be plus or minus 2 in this case? Well, if you think about it, both these answers fit this equation, right? Minus 4 to the power of 2 square root. Well, that's still going to give you positive 4. So if you, sorry, I'm wrong. Minus 4 squared is going to give you positive 16. 4 squared is also going to give you positive 16. Both fit the equation. So if I root this side in order to find out what goes in the middle here, then yes, it's positive or negative. But if I have a square root and I want to find out what is the value of a square root, the value of a square root is always positive. So when I use it in this sense, then yes, I get a positive and negative answer. But when I use it here, I do not get a positive or negative answer. And you might say, but wait. You know, isn't this the same as just saying, this asks what number multiplied by itself gives me 4? Can't I say negative 4 multiplied by itself gives me 4? You know, so the answer is negative 4 or negative 2, I suppose. Negative 2 squared. So isn't the answer negative 2 then? And technically no, because you would then actually solve this inside first, so you'd still get the answer of positive 2. So just in recapping, we've got two answers. The one verifies, so the other one doesn't. So this we write as not a solution. I hope I haven't confused you by explaining why, and in which case we do get positive and negative. Negative 2 is not equal to 2, so that's not a solution. But let's move on. Now for the next one, we want to solve by completing the square. Now they say specifically completing the square. You could use a quadratic equation on this, but they'll probably won't give you any marks for that. So x squared plus 2x equals 6. So what we're going to do is, to complete the square, you take the middle term. Well, firstly, you got to make sure there's nothing in front of the x. If there was like a 3x, then you'd have to divide each term by 3, even if you have fractions. Okay, then you take your middle term. Completing the square, you take your middle term. We multiply it by a half, especially if it's a fraction. Sometimes you can also think of it as dividing by 2, which works in this case, but if it's a fraction, you've got to remember dividing by 2, multiplying by a half is the same thing. So 2 times half is just 1. 1 squared is 1, right? Then what you do is you add that to both sides of this equation. What you get here is obviously 6 plus 1 is 7. This side though, factorizes into a perfect square trinomial. This is a perfect square trinomial. So it'll factorize x squared, x times x. 1 is 1 times 1, and positive and positive. So x plus 1 squared, that's what this means, right, is 7. Now we're taking our square root. So in this case, we're going to have a positive and negative answer because we're taking our square root for a different purpose. So square root over here, x plus 1 is positive or negative square root of 7. So remember, when you're completing square, it's positive or negative. So our two answers is positive 7 minus 1, positive square root 7 minus 1, and the other answer is negative square root 7 minus 1. Those are your two answers. So remember, for a quadratic equation, most of the time, unless you're dealing with a perfect square trinomial, you will have two answers. Or if you're dealing with one with actually no answers, no real roots. Okay, that was easy enough. Now we come to one that's actually slightly confusing, but not too bad.